My name is Patricia. I'm 61 years old. And until 6 months ago, I thought I knew my son Travis better than anyone in the world. We were having dinner at Bellissimo, this upscale Italian place he insisted on taking me to. When Travis excused himself to take a phone call, I never expected what would happen next. The security guard approached my table with a grave expression. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I saw him pour something into your juice when you looked away." My hands started shaking. Before I continue the story, let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button, because what I'm about to share might save someone you love. I raised Travis alone after his father and I divorced when he was just 8 years old. Working as an accountant, I made sure Travis never felt the financial strain of growing up in a single parent household. I took extra clients, worked weekends, and postponed my own dreams to ensure he could attend college without crushing student loans. The sacrifice felt worth it every time I saw his bright smile. We had our special traditions. Sunday morning pancakes became our weekly ritual where we'd discuss everything from school projects to his first heartbreak. As Travis grew into a teenager, those pancakes transformed from Mickey Mouse shapes to protein-packed stacks, but our conversations remained deep and meaningful. When Travis left for State University to study business, I worried our connection might fade. Instead, he called me 3 times a week, sharing campus stories and asking for advice. He'd come home for long weekends and we'd fall right back into our comfortable pattern. Those years strengthened our bond, and I felt blessed to have such a close relationship with my adult son. After graduation, Travis landed an impressive job in pharmaceutical sales. His natural charm and intelligence made him a perfect fit, and he quickly climbed the corporate ladder. By 27, he had his own territory, a company car, and a salary that made me proud. I remembered the nights I'd worked until midnight to provide for him, and seeing his success felt like validation for every sacrifice. But something changed about 6 months ago. It started with small things. Travis cancelled our monthly dinner twice in a row, claiming work emergencies. His voice sounded different on the phone, tighter, more controlled. When we did meet, his eyes darted around the room instead of focusing on our conversation. I noticed physical changes too. His once athletic frame had thinned noticeably. Dark circles shadowed his eyes and his clothes hung looser. When I mentioned these observations, his response was uncharacteristically sharp. "You need to stop analyzing me, Mom. I'm under pressure at work, that's all." The defensive tone was new. Throughout his life, Travis had been open about his challenges, seeking my perspective, even when he didn't follow my advice. This wall between us felt foreign and frightening. I tried different approaches. I asked about work, wondering if he faced problems there. I inquired about his romantic life, thinking perhaps a relationship had ended poorly. I even suggested he visit his doctor, framing it as routine maintenance rather than concern. Each attempt met with increasingly irritable responses. "I'm fine, Mom, just busy. Not everyone has time to overthink every little thing." The comment stung. I'd never been an intrusive mother, and Travis had always valued my input. Something was clearly wrong, but I couldn't identify the problem, let alone help solve it. Then surprisingly, Travis called on a Tuesday evening, asking if I was free for dinner that Friday. He suggested Bellissimo, an expensive Italian restaurant downtown, that we'd talked about trying for years, but had always considered too extravagant for regular outings. "My treat," he insisted. "I've been rough on you lately. Let me make it up to you." Hope fluttered in my chest. Perhaps he was ready to confide in me to explain the mysterious changes in his behavior. I spent extra time preparing for the dinner, selecting a blue dress that Travis had once complimented, applying makeup carefully, even splurging on a salon appointment for my hair. When Travis picked me up, I noticed immediately that his efforts matched mine. He wore a crisp, button-down shirt I'd given him for Christmas, his hair freshly cut. Yet despite his polished appearance, anxiety radiated from him. His fingers tapped constantly against the steering wheel, and his smile seemed plastered on rather than genuine. At the restaurant, Travis specifically requested a corner table away from other diners. The request struck me as odd. Travis had always been social, enjoying the energy of busy restaurants. The hostess led us to a secluded spot with elegant table settings and soft lighting. Perfect, Travis said, pulling out my chair with unusual formality. When the waiter approached, Travis ordered drinks for both of us without consulting me, another deviation from our normal pattern. He requested a specific brand of cranberry juice for me, mentioning that he remembered it was my favorite. While true, I couldn't recall ever discussing beverage preferences with him in such detail. "Is everything okay, sweetie?" I asked once the waiter departed. "Of course," Travis answered too quickly. "Why wouldn't it be? I just wanted a nice evening with my mom." I wanted to believe him, but the strain in his voice told a different story. Something important was happening tonight, and the knot in my stomach tightened as I wondered what revelation awaited me. Bellissimo lived up to its reputation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over white tablecloths and polished silverware. Soft classical music provided a perfect backdrop for intimate conversation. Under different circumstances, I would have been completely enchanted. Our appetizers arrived. Bruschetta with fresh tomatoes and basil, for me calamari for Travis. He barely touched his food but insisted I try everything. "This place has amazing reviews. Their chef trained in Florence," he said, filling conversation with restaurant facts rather than personal information. I noticed Travis checking his watch repeatedly. Each time he would follow the gesture with an overly bright smile, as though compensating for his distraction. When I asked about his work, he provided vague responses about exciting new territories and restructuring opportunities. None of his answers contained the specific anecdotes and colleague names that typically peppered his work stories. About 20 minutes into our meal, Travis's phone chimed. He glanced at the screen and his face paled visibly. "I'm so sorry, Mom. It's the regional manager. I need to take this outside where it's quieter. I'll just be a minute." He hurried away before I could respond, clutching his phone like a lifeline. I watched him through the window. As he paced on the sidewalk, his gestures animated and tense. This wasn't a work call. I recognized the body language of someone in a heated personal discussion. Anxiety gnawed at me as I sat alone at our table. The Travis I knew had vanished, replaced by a stranger with my son's face, but none of his warmth or authenticity. I wondered if he was involved with dangerous people, or perhaps struggling with some secret health diagnosis he couldn't bring himself to share. Lost in these troubling thoughts, I barely noticed when a well-dressed man approached my table. Nothing in his appearance suggested security personnel. He wore a tailored suit and could easily have been another diner. "Excuse me, ma'am," he said quietly, leaning slightly toward me. "My name is Jackson. I work security for Bellissimo." I looked up, confused by the interruption. "I don't mean to alarm you," he continued, his voice low and steady, "but I saw your son pour something into your juice when you were looking at the menu." The world seemed to stop. My hands began trembling so badly that I had to place them flat on the table to steady them. "That's impossible," I whispered, though even as I said the words, pieces began clicking into terrible place. Jackson's expression remained professionally calm. "I work plainclothes security to maintain the restaurant's atmosphere. I was positioned near your table and had a clear view." He used a small vial, very quick when you were reading the specials page. My eyes darted to the cranberry juice sitting untouched before me. The specific brand Travis had insisted on ordering. "We have security cameras that would have captured it," Jackson added gently. "I wanted to alert you before you drank anything." My heart raced painfully. The son I'd raised, the baby I'd nursed through fevers and taught to ride a bike. Had he really tried to drug me? The notion was so outlandish that I almost laughed, yet the security guard's earnest expression stopped me. "Thank you," I managed to say. "I appreciate your concern." Jackson handed me a business card. "If you need anything, please let me know. I'll be nearby." He walked away just as Travis returned, sliding back into his seat with forced casualness. His eyes immediately went to my still full juice glass. "Everything okay with your drink?" he asked too nonchalantly. Just saving it, I replied, watching his expression carefully. How was your call? Travis launched into an elaborate explanation about territory redistributions and quarterly projections. The words flowed smoothly rehearsed. While he spoke, I observed him with new awareness. His eyes kept returning to my untouched juice, and his left foot tapped rapidly against the floor. A nervous habit from childhood. I couldn't confront him here in public. If Jackson was right, I needed to understand the full scope of what was happening. So I pretended nothing had changed, asking appropriate questions about his fabricated work call while my mind raced with terrible possibilities. When our main courses arrived, I strategically lifted my juice glass several times without actually drinking. Each time Travis's attention locked onto the glass, his conversation faltering momentarily. When I finally pretended to take a small sip, holding the liquid in my mouth, but not swallowing, relief visibly washed over his features. Good, isn't it? He asked, watching me intently. I remembered cranberry is your favorite. The Travis I knew would never harm me, but the man sitting across from me monitoring my drinking with predatory focus had become a stranger wearing my son's face. As our dinner progressed, I excused myself to the restroom, taking my small vintage lipstick case with me. Once inside the stall, I carefully emptied the lipstick and used the container to collect a sample of the juice. My hands shook so badly I nearly spilled it. The logical part of my mind still argued this was all a misunderstanding, but my instincts screamed danger. In the hallway outside the restroom, Jackson was waiting discreetly by a service door. He approached when he saw me. "Are you all right, ma'am?" he asked, genuine concern in his eyes. I showed him the lipstick container. "I saved a sample. I don't know what to do next." "Smart move," he said. "Do you have someone who can help you test it?" I thought of my friend Marie's nephew, who worked in a medical lab. "Possibly. Here's my personal number," Jackson said, writing on the back of his business card. "Call if you need a witness or any other assistance. And be careful." I returned to the table, my heart pounding, but my face composed from years of hiding financial worries from Travis during his childhood. I managed to finish dinner, picking at my pasta while maintaining conversation about neighbors' community news, safe topics that required minimal engagement. When it came time to leave, Travis insisted on driving me home. The 15-minute journey felt endless, each familiar street now ominous as I sat beside someone I no longer recognized. At my house, Travis parked and turned off the engine. "I'll come in with you," he said, not a question but a statement. Alarm bells rang louder in my mind. "You don't need to do that. You must be tired." "It's fine," Travis insisted, already opening his door. "I want to make sure you get settled." Inside my living room, I deliberately yawned. That wine at dinner really made me sleepy. I hadn't actually consumed any alcohol, but Travis wouldn't remember that detail if his focus had been on the juice. Travis's response chilled me. "You should lie down. Let me help you to your bedroom." His eagerness to get me to bed triggered another wave of fear. I'd never needed help getting to my own bedroom in my life. "Actually," I said, forcing my voice to remain steady, "I'm not quite ready for sleep. Let's sit for a minute." Frustration flashed across Travis's face before he masked it. "You said you were tired. I just want to make sure you're comfortable." The pretense couldn't continue. Whatever was happening, I needed answers. "Travis," I said directly, "why did you put something in my drink tonight?" His face drained of color. For a moment, he looked like a little boy caught stealing cookies, shocked, guilty, already formulating denials. "What are you talking about?" he stammered. "That's crazy, Mom." "The security guard saw you," I replied, my voice stronger than I felt. "There are cameras. Please just tell me the truth." Travis's expression hardened. "That's ridiculous. What security guard? I didn't see anyone talking to you." "He was in plain clothes. He approached when you took that phone call." "And you believed some stranger over your own son?" Travis's voice rose, shifting from denial to attack. How could you think I would ever hurt you? The deflection tactic might have worked once, but I'd spent hours processing this betrayal. Travis, stop. I saw how you watched me waiting for me to drink. I saw your relief when you thought I had. Travis paced my living room, running his hands through his hair. Another childhood gesture when caught in a lie. This is insane. I'm leaving. Then, as he grabbed his jacket, I played my final card. I saved some of the juice. I'm having it tested. He froze his back to me. The silence stretched between us, decades of love and trust, crumbling in those endless seconds. When he turned, his face had crumpled, tears streaming down his cheeks. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You don't understand. They were going to kill me. The confession broke something inside me. I sank onto the sofa legs, suddenly unable to support my weight. Who, Travis? Who would kill you? The story spilled out in broken sentences. Travis had developed a gambling habit 3 years earlier, starting with sports betting apps and escalating to underground poker games. Initially successful, he'd grown overconfident, betting larger amounts. When he started losing, he borrowed money to recoup his losses, creating a spiral of debt. I owe $70,000 to people who don't send collection notices, Mom. They send guys to break legs, or worse. Why didn't you come to me? I asked, my voice barely audible. Travis looked away. Because I've borrowed from you 3 times already. Remember that roof repair, the investment opportunity, the car trouble, none of that was real. I used the money for gambling debts. Each revelation was another knife twist. I remembered how relieved I'd been to help with those expenses, happy to dip into my savings to support my son. What was in the juice, Travis? He couldn't meet my eyes. Just sleeping pills crushed up, strong ones. You would have been really groggy, confused. I was going to help you to bed, then use your computer to transfer money from your retirement account to mine. Just enough to pay off the debt. You wouldn't even have remembered in the morning. Would have thought you just had a weird reaction to the wine. The calculated nature of the plan stunned me. This wasn't a desperate, impulsive act. Travis had selected the restaurant for its private corners, ordered specific drinks, prepared the sedative, and crafted a careful execution strategy. You were going to steal my retirement savings money. I worked overtime for decades to save. I would have paid you back. Travis insisted, though we both knew it was a lie. Mom, these guys showed up at my apartment with a gun. They described your house, your car. They know where you live. I was trying to protect both of us. The manipulation in his words was clear now. Even in confession, he was twisting the narrative, positioning himself as my protector rather than my betrayer. You need to leave, I said, my voice surprisingly calm. Now. Mom, please. Now, Travis, take your things and go. As he gathered his jacket and keys, Travis made one last attempt. I just need 20,000. If I give them something tonight, they'll give me more time for the rest. I stood firm, pointing to the door. That's not happening. Get out. The door closed behind him, and I collapsed, sobs tearing through my body as I confronted the unthinkable truth. My only child had been willing to drug me and steal my life savings, justifying it as protection. The betrayal cut to the core of my identity, as a mother, making me question every memory, every sacrifice, every moment I thought we'd shared in love and trust. After Travis left, I fell apart completely. Decades of composure crumbled as I sobbed on my living room floor, feeling like I was mourning a death. In many ways I was. The death of the relationship I thought I had with my son. The death of trust. The death of my identity as the mother who had raised a good man. When the tears finally subsided, my hands shook so badly I could barely operate my phone. I called Marie, my closest friend since college days, who had stood by me through divorce and single parenthood. I need you, was all I could manage to say. Marie arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing pajama pants under her coat. One look at my face told her this was no ordinary crisis. What happened? She asked, guiding me to the couch and wrapping a throw blanket around my shoulders. The story came out in fragments. The restaurant, the security guard, the confrontation, Travis's confession. Marie listened without interruption, her expression shifting from shock to horror to anger. "We need to call the police," she said when I finished. The word police sent fresh pain through me. "I can't send my own son to jail." "Patricia, he drugged you. Or tried to. That's criminal. And who knows what could have happened if you'd actually consumed that stuff. Those kinds of medications can have dangerous interactions." I hadn't even considered that aspect. That the sedative could have caused serious harm beyond just making me pliable for theft. The realization deepened my sense of betrayal. "Let me call my nephew Sam first," Marie suggested. "He can test the sample discreetly at his lab. At least we'll know exactly what we're dealing with." While Marie made the call, I checked my phone. 5 missed calls from Travis and a string of text messages. "Mom, please talk to me. I'm desperate. They're going to hurt me if I don't pay something tonight. Please, just loan me 10K. I promise I'll get help." Each message twisted the knife deeper. Even now he was focusing on his needs, trying to manipulate my maternal instincts. The next morning, Marie drove me to meet her nephew at a coffee shop near his laboratory. Sam, a serious young man with kind eyes, had agreed to analyze the juice sample as a personal favor. "I can't provide an official report," he explained, "but I can tell you what was in it." 2 hours later, he called with results. The juice contained a powerful benzodiazepine, 3 times the normal prescription strength. "That would have done more than make you sleepy," Sam explained. "It would have caused significant confusion, memory loss, and potentially dangerous respiratory depression, especially if you'd finished the whole glass. With your age and weight, you might have needed medical intervention." The knowledge that Travis had been willing to risk my health so severely brought a fresh wave of grief. When I returned home, still processing this information, I noticed Travis had left his messenger bag in my living room in his hurried exit. Inside, I found withdrawal authorization forms for my retirement account already filled out with my information needing only a signature. He'd even practiced forging my signature on a notepad. There were several attempts, each getting closer to my authentic handwriting. The evidence of premeditation was undeniable. This wasn't a desperate son's split-second bad decision. Travis had planned this methodically, gathering my account information, practicing my signature, selecting a sedative that would cause amnesia. For 3 days, I ignored Travis's increasingly frantic messages while I processed my thoughts. Marie stayed with me, fielding calls from mutual friends and family members, giving me space to grieve. She gently but persistently suggested involving authorities. "What if he does this to someone else?" she asked. "What if these dangerous people hurt someone because of his debts?" Her question sparked a realization. I needed to understand the full scope of Travis's situation. With Marie's encouragement, I hired Diana, a private investigator recommended by a former client. Diana's findings painted a disturbing picture. Travis's gambling addiction had progressed much further than he'd admitted. He'd taken loans from multiple dangerous sources, using his pharmaceutical sales job to access doctors who would provide prescription medications that he then sold to pay debts. His apartment was months behind in rent, his car nearly repossessed. Most alarmingly, he'd approached several elderly customers at his bank, striking up friendships that led to investment opportunities where he'd collected thousands before disappearing. "He's not just in danger," Diana explained gently. "He's become dangerous to others. This pattern indicates someone deep in addiction who has lost all normal ethical boundaries." The Travis I raised had been honest to a fault, returning extra change when cashiers made mistakes, volunteering at homeless shelters during college. The man Diana described was a stranger who used people's trust as a weapon against them. The cognitive dissonance was almost unbearable. I cycled through emotion denial, wanting to believe Travis had been coerced, anger at his betrayal of everything I thought I taught him, crushing guilt that I had somehow failed as a mother to notice his dissent, and finally grief for the son I had lost to addiction. Marie held me through the worst nights, reminding me that addiction is a disease that transforms people. "The Travis who planned this isn't the same person you raised," she insisted. but if he gets help, that person might still be saved. Her words became my lifeline as I moved from passive victim to active problem solver. Travis needed intervention, not enablement, and I needed to protect myself while finding him real help, not the kind that came from writing checks, but the harder path of consequences and recovery. 6 days after the restaurant incident, Travis appeared at my door at 11:30 at night. His appearance shocked me. Unshaven clothes, wrinkled eyes wild with desperation. "They're coming tonight, Mom," he said, pushing past me into the house. "I need money now." Before I could respond, headlights swept across my living room as a car parked at the curb. Two men emerged, their postures radiating menace even from a distance. "Oh God, they followed me," Travis moaned, peering through the blinds. "Mom, please, just write a check. They'll hurt both of us." Fear pulsed through me, but something else rose stronger, a clarity I hadn't felt since this nightmare began. Travis had brought danger to my door, endangering not just himself but me. The pattern would continue unless something changed fundamentally. The men knocked hard. Travis looked at me pleadingly. "Open it," I said, reaching for my phone. "Are you crazy? They'll open it or I will." Something in my tone made Travis comply. The two men entered, one tall and lean, the other stocky with a neck tattoo partially visible above his collar. They surveyed my living room with cold assessment. "Mrs. Carter," the taller man said with mock politeness, "your son has told us a lot about you, especially about your generous nature and comfortable retirement fund." I stood straight, summoning the strength I'd built, raising a child alone. "I understand Travis owes you money. 70 grand. Neck tattoo confirmed. Plus interest, which is accruing as we speak." "I don't have that kind of cash available," I said calmly. The tall man's smile disappeared. "That's disappointing. We were hoping to resolve this pleasantly." "Mom," Travis interjected frantically, "just write the check, please." I looked directly at the tall man, ignoring Travis. "I won't be writing any checks, but I've made some arrangements you should know about." I gestured to my security system panel, its light blinking steadily. "This system has been recording since you entered. It uploads footage to a cloud server in real time. Additionally, I've just texted the police captain. He's a personal friend and client of my accounting firm." This was partly a bluff. I did have a security system that recorded, but my police connection was an exaggeration of a cordial relationship with a local officer. "Furthermore," I continued, "I've spoken with someone at Travis's bank about suspicious account activity. They're already investigating several complaints about investment schemes." The men exchanged glances. Neck Tattoo took a step toward me, but the taller one held up his hand. "We just want what's owed," he said, his tone harder. "And Travis will need to address that," I replied, "but not through stealing my savings and not through threats to his family." As if on cue, police sirens wailed in the distance. Likely a coincidence, but the timing was perfect. The men's demeanor changed instantly. "We'll be in touch, Travis," the tall one said, backing toward the door. Soon. When they'd gone, Travis collapsed onto the sofa, his head in his hands. "You've just made everything worse." Before I could respond, actual police arrived. My neighbor had seen the suspicious men enter and called 911. The responding officers took our statements, and when they understood the full situation, including the attempted drugging, they spoke to Travis separately. I stood in my kitchen, watching through the window as an officer talked intensely with my son in the patrol car. Eventually, the officer approached me. "Ma'am, we can arrest your son for attempted poisoning and attempted theft. These are serious charges. Is that what you want?" The question hit me with its full weight of maternal love and painful responsibility. "Will he get help if you arrest him?" The officer nodded slowly. The judge would likely order addiction treatment as part of any sentence given the circumstances, and it would create a record that might help if these loan sharks return. But the hardest decision of my life was also ultimately the clearest. Then yes, that's what needs to happen. I watched them place handcuffs on my son. The hands I had once guided to form his first letters, the wrists I had bandaged after bicycle falls. Travis looked back at me with a mixture of betrayal and relief that I still cannot fully describe. In that moment, I saw the little boy I had raised trapped inside the desperate man he had become. That night was the longest of my life. Marie came immediately holding me as I alternated between certainty that I'd done the right thing and overwhelming guilt. "You didn't put those handcuffs on him," she reminded me. "His choices did that, and this might be his only chance to make different choices." I realized then that true love sometimes means allowing natural consequences rather than shielding someone from them. For years, I tried to make Travis's life easier, protecting him from financial hardship always being his safety net. Perhaps that well-intentioned protection had prevented him from developing the resilience to face difficulties without escape through gambling. The next morning, I contacted a lawyer specializing in addiction cases, arranging representation for Travis. I researched treatment programs with strong gambling addiction components. I joined an online support group for families of addicts. 3 days later, I visited Travis in jail. The fluorescent lights emphasized his exhaustion, but his eyes were clearer than I'd seen in months. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I'll always come," I replied. "But things have to be different now." We talked for 30 minutes, the most honest conversation we'd had in years. Travis admitted the drugging attempt wasn't his first criminal act. The gambling had started years earlier than he'd claimed. He'd stolen from his employer. He'd manipulated elderly clients. "I don't even recognize myself anymore," he said, finally meeting my eyes. "When those guys showed up at my apartment with a gun, I knew I needed help. But instead of asking for it, I just found another person to use." "You can get help now," I told him. "I've found programs. I've spoken to a lawyer. But Travis, I can't fix this for you. I can support your recovery, but you have to do the work." For the first time, I set clear boundaries. I would not post bail. I would not pay his debts. I would not lie to investigators about what had happened. I would, however, visit regularly, contribute to treatment costs once he committed to a program, and be his advocate for rehabilitation rather than pure punishment. Travis nodded slowly. "I don't deserve another chance." "This isn't about deserving," I said. "It's about healing, for both of us." As I left the jail, I felt simultaneously heartbroken and strengthened. The path forward would be difficult, but at least it was a path, not the free fall of denial and enabling that had characterized the past years. The 6 weeks following Travis's arrest challenged everything I thought I knew about motherhood, addiction, and love. The legal system moved slowly, but with the lawyer's help, Travis was offered a plea deal focused on rehabilitation rather than incarceration, conditional upon completion of a comprehensive treatment program. I immersed myself in understanding gambling addiction, discovering its similarities to substance dependence. The same brain chemistry, the same progression, the same ability to override a person's core values. Learning that addiction physically rewires the brain helped me separate the disease from the son I loved. Understanding that his actions, while inexcusable, stemmed from an illness rather than pure moral failure. The support group became my lifeline. Listening to other parents, spouses, and siblings share similar stories of betrayal by loved ones they barely recognized helped diminish my isolation. When I finally shared my own story, the absence of judgment from people who truly understood brought the first real healing. "You did the right thing," said Eleanor, whose husband of 30 years had gambled away their house. "It took me 3 lost homes to stop enabling my Richard. You're saving years of heartache." While navigating the legal and treatment systems for Travis, I also worked to rebuild my own sense of security. I changed all my financial passwords, installed additional home security measures, and met with my financial advisor to protect my accounts from future manipulation. I reconnected with Jackson, the security guard, who had likely saved me from being drugged. Over coffee, he shared that his brother had struggled with heroin addiction for a decade. I recognize the look in your son's eyes, he explained. That focused desperation. When I saw him putting something in your drink, I just knew I had to say something. Jackson became an unexpected friend during this period, introducing me to resources I wouldn't have found otherwise, including a specialized therapist who helped family members process the unique trauma of addiction betrayal. Through legal discovery, I learned more details about Travis's downward spiral. His gambling debts were actually closer to $90,000 spread across loan sharks and maxed out credit cards. He'd been selling prescription medications obtained through his pharmaceutical connections, using his insider knowledge of which doctors prescribed liberally. The men who had come to my house were connected to a known loan operation that preyed specifically on gambling addicts, offering quick cash at astronomical interest rates. After 2 months, Travis was transferred to a residential treatment center specializing in gambling addiction. Our first approved visit was tense but encouraging. The physical transformation was striking. He'd gained healthy weight, his eyes were clear, and the constant agitation had subsided. "I've been working the steps," he said, referring to the Gamblers Anonymous program. "Step 9 is making amends, but I know there's no way to truly make amends for what I tried to do to you." "Perhaps not," I acknowledged, "but commitment to never repeating those behaviors is a start." We established a new relationship pattern during his treatment. I attended family sessions where we worked with counselors to identify unhealthy dynamics in our relationship. I learned about my own codependent behaviors, how my desire to make Travis's life perfect had sometimes undermined his development of coping skills. Travis discovered the childhood roots of his addiction, using video games as escape from the pain of his father's abandonment, the early dopamine patterns that gambling later exploited. Each visit brought incremental progress, though there were setbacks too. 3 months into treatment, Travis confessed to sneaking a deck of cards into the facility, hiding in the bathroom to play solitary poker games he bet on in his mind. "It's still there," he admitted, "the urge. But now I'm telling someone when it happens instead of acting on it." That honesty, painful as it was to hear, represented real progress. Rebuilding trust was the slowest process. I approached it like the accountant I was, through verification and consistent evidence. Travis provided access to his treatment records, submitted to regular check-ins with his probation officer, and agreed to financial oversight as conditions of my continued support. Each kept promise was a small deposit in an emotional bank account that had been completely emptied. My own healing happened alongside his. I discovered that my identity had become too wrapped up in being Travis's mother, neglecting other aspects of myself. I reconnected with old friends, took a pottery class I'd always been curious about, and even started dating again, something I hadn't considered in 15 years. The support group introduced me to other parents in various stages of the journey, including Beverly, whose daughter had been in recovery for 7 years after stealing Beverly's identity and draining her accounts. "It gets better," Beverly assured me. "Not perfect, not like it was before, but better in a different way, more authentic with fewer illusions." 6 months after the restaurant incident, Travis and I had our first family counseling session that felt genuinely productive rather than just painful. We addressed the attempted drugging directly with Travis, taking full responsibility without deflection. "I convinced myself it wasn't really harmful," he admitted, "that you'd just sleep it off. But I know now I could have killed you with that dosage. I risked your life for money, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of another chance." For the first time since that night at Bellissimo, I felt a glimmer of the connection we'd once shared. Not the same, perhaps, never the same, but something authentic emerging from the ashes of what was destroyed. 1 year after that terrible night at Bellissimo restaurant, Travis completed his formal rehabilitation program. The journey had transformed us both in ways I never could have imagined. Travis emerged from treatment with a fundamental understanding of his addiction that went beyond simply avoiding triggers. He learned to identify the emotional states that preceded gambling urges, stress, loneliness, feelings of inadequacy, and developed healthier coping mechanisms. His counselors helped him confront the abandonment wounds from his father's departure, breaking the pattern of numbing emotional pain through the artificial highs of gambling. The criminal charges resulted in probation rather than incarceration, with mandated continuing treatment and financial restitution to several victims. Travis embraced these consequences without complaint, recognizing them as the necessary framework for his recovery. For my part, I discovered that loving someone with addiction requires a different kind of love than what I had practiced before. One with clearer boundaries, more verification, and less rescue. The support group taught me the critical difference between helping and enabling, between supporting recovery and shielding from consequences. I had always thought love meant making life easier for my child. Now I understood that sometimes the most loving act is allowing someone to experience the full impact of their choices while standing witness to their struggle, offering guidance rather than rescue. Travis found work at a restaurant, a humble position compared to his previous sales career, but one that provided structure without the access to prescription medications or the expense account that had fueled his gambling. More importantly, he began volunteer work with a gambling addiction hotline, using his experience to help others recognize the early warning signs he had ignored. I talked to someone today who was selling family heirlooms to cover sports betting losses. He told me during one of our weekly dinners, I recognized myself in him. The rationalizations, the magical thinking that one big win would fix everything. It feels meaningful to guide someone toward help before they reach the point I did. Our relationship slowly rebuilt on a foundation of honesty rather than the performance of perfection that had characterized our previous dynamic. Travis no longer pretended everything was fine when it wasn't, and I no longer pretended to believe him when my instinct said otherwise. The most healing moment came unexpectedly. Travis had been sober from gambling for 11 months when he called me, voice shaking. "Mom, I almost slipped today," he admitted. "An old friend invited me to a poker game. Just for fun," he said. "No money involved." But I know where that leads for me. I wanted so badly to say yes. "But you didn't," I observed. "I called my sponsor instead. We went to a meeting. But I needed you to know too. No more secrets." That voluntary disclosure, when he could easily have hidden the near relapse, marked a turning point in rebuilding trust. My friendship with Jackson, the security guard, who had warned me that night, developed in unexpected ways. His insight into addiction through his brother's experience provided perspective during Travis's darkest moments. When I thanked him again for his intervention, he shook his head. "I just did my job. You did the hard part, facing the truth and acting on it when it would have been easier to look away." The most profound change was in my understanding of love itself. I had always equated love with protection, with making life easier for those I cared about. Now I recognized that real love includes allowing people to grow through difficulty rather than shielding them from it. Unconditional love didn't mean unconditional acceptance of harmful behaviors. It meant consistently valuing the person while rejecting actions that caused harm. Travis and I celebrated Christmas together that year. A quiet gathering that also included Murray and her family, Jackson, and his wife and 2 friends from my support group. As I watched Travis engage thoughtfully with others, I felt profound gratitude for second chances. The path of recovery isn't perfect. Travis still faces triggers and temptations. I still experience moments of doubt and residual hurt. But we continue moving forward with greater awareness and authenticity than before. If you're watching this and recognize similar patterns in someone you love, please know there's help available. Addiction thrives in secrecy and denial, but it cannot survive in the light of honest confrontation and proper treatment. The hardest step is often the first one, acknowledging the problem rather than protecting yourself from the pain of seeing it clearly. Sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing someone to face the consequences of their actions while never giving up on their capacity to heal. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong, even when the truth feels too painful to face. Your courage might save not only your own well being, but also the life of the person you're afraid to confront. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please like and subscribe to this channel. Share this video with someone who might be struggling with a loved one's addiction. Leave a comment about your own experiences with betrayal and healing. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Have you ever had to practice tough love with someone important to you? What gave you the strength to set boundaries when needed? Remember, we heal better together than alone.